Hello, welcome to the Scram Leather Kitchen. I'm here again with a super simple recipe. I never did Fat Friday yesterday because I'd made a lovely raspberry cheesecake for my good friend Donna, whose birthday's today. So I'd made that for her and she'd come in and collected it yesterday. I hadn't filmed it mistakenly. I should have filmed it, it's absolutely delicious. So maybe have to make that again. But today I'm going to do two things. So we'll make it, what would we call it today? Scrumptious Saturday. Right, so the first thing is, for those of you who think my videos are too long, it is really super simple, really nice. It's a little tray bake and it is a take on the mini teasers that you get in a box of celebrations, little Malteser ones. Now I'm not saying it's absolutely the same, but it's quite close. So with that, I have already crushed up multi biscuits. So I've got 250 grams of them. Now I crushed them up with a rolling pin and then I sort of grounded them down a little bit with my pestle, can't find it, with my pestle just to get extra. So some of them are kind of powdery like sand and some of them are a little bit like more. And I think that adds to the, you can do it in your food processor if you want. If you have one of those. I tend to not do that because I like different textures, but anyway, so 250 grams of that. To that I would have 150 grams of malt powder. I'll just add that in there. You know the drinking malt powders that you get? I know there's branded ones. I have just used a supermarket own. So 150 grams of that, and I'm just going to mix that in with my fingers because that's me, hands on, hands on. Mix all that together, and that's it, like so. And then to that I am going to add 400 grams of melted chocolate, and that is melted. I have melted it over simmering water and it's in this very thick, very old-fashioned thick glass bowl. You have to be very careful when melting chocolate over glass because it can explode, so don't ever do it with any cheap thin quality glass. This, as I say, it's an old handed down from my mum from probably the 70s, back when they made things really well. So I'm just mixing all this chocolate in. This sets, hold it up here, just because it sets quite quickly, so this should be enough to bind all this together. Still some on the bowl, so I'm just going to get that out. Work fast with this because it does set quickly. Yeah, a little bit more chocolate. Here's that one. Get the rest out of here. And every last bit of it. There we are. It's not whatnot. So that's melted milk chocolate, and that is a cheap supermarket owned brand, and I think I've said this before, some of the well-known high street brands, well-known labels, I feel their chocolate qualities went down over the years. Less cocoa in them, more fat in them, more milk solids in them. So that is all combined together really well. It's stiff but holding, still movable, and I'm putting this into this pre-lined tin. And I'll just go in there, and that is it. That is one done. One done. Now this can set just like this. You don't really need to put it in the fridge to set. It will set non-refrigerated. I'll put mine in the fridge once it's cooled a little. I'll put mine in the fridge because you can mark this to cut into squares, and you can eat it just like that. It's lovely, it's delicious, it's chocolatey, malty, really, really nice. But what I also like to do is cut it into squares and then put another little chocolate topping on the top, and then cut it into squares, a little layer of chocolate on the top. The ones you get in those tins, they're individually wrapped and they are coated in chocolate. They are mostly chocolate. but I think one layer on top is enough to give them that more chocolatey flavour without it just tasting all chocolate and it overriding the malt flavour that you get out of those wee teasers. So that is that. It's all going in nicely. And I'm just going to allow that to set. When that cools down, I'll score it to make it easier for cutting before I attempt to cut it. Chef's pleasure. Mm. 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 I'm not touching the food. And it looks like that. Done. Yum. Right, that's in the fridge. The second thing I'm going to make is a version of biscuit cake. So, to put in the picture, I have a leftover tin of shortbread, and it was from Christmas. Bells, stars. So I've broken all of that up, apart from these two just to show you. Now this is a version of biscuit cake that was Queen Elizabeth II's favourite afternoon treat. So it's good enough for her. But the original one is made with dark chocolate and rich tea biscuits, which is like the little Marie biscuits. The rich tea is a sort of brand here, but so I've broken all of these up. This is shortbread, but we'll try, and because I've got all of this milk chocolate to use up that I got at Easter, I still have a great big tin full of all of these eggs that I haven't opened yet. And I still have a big tin full of all the chocolate that I have broken up, and it's milk, so I'm using milk for the most part. I'll put a layer of dark on it later, but so the biscuit cake goes, it's usually about 220 to 250 grams of broken biscuits. You don't pound them down the way you're doing for a, what do you call it? Like a cheesecake base. You keep pieces because the mixture has to absorb into those. With that, you have 125 grams of softened butter, and remember, soft means you should be able to spread it soft. Softened butter, so 125 grams of that goes in there. 125 grams of golden caster sugar in there, and you cream the butter and sugar together until it's light and fluffy. And then into that I will add 125 grams of the melted chocolate mix. Once I add that, I then throw in the biscuits and 2 tablespoons of boiling water, or warm water. And you mix all that together until it's really, really well combined. And then it goes into a lined baking tin, cake tin. The Queen's one is in the round cake tin, and it's topped in a dark chocolate ganache and looks like a real cake that you cut slices of. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I really don't. So I'm just hoping for the best. What I'm doing is just trying to make use of things that I have in the house to, one, get rid of tins of things that I have and use up. These biscuits are good until August. And I have another box of shortbread that's good until November, but I'm thinking I want to use them up and get them out the cupboard. So I'm going to cream this and come back when it's creamed so that it's too noisy for camera. So creamed till it is light and fluffy. I don't know if you can see with the light here. There's a better light. Light and fluffy. Just creamed as in handheld beater until it goes all light and fluffy. Then we have to pour the chocolate mix on top of the butter mix and make sure it's thoroughly mixed in. Just get them all out of that. Make sure I'm using it all. Don't waste anything. Excuse me, that goes there. Mix it all to combine. And then we add the boiling water. Now, you're normally make this with dark chocolate, and it's 2 tablespoons of the water. I'm thinking because it's milk, I'm just going to use 1 tablespoon of the water, I think, because dark chocolate, I think it sets harder and sets, I don't know, just because of the higher cocoa content and the less, it's usually less fat as well. I think you won't need it in this, so I'm just gonna, I don't know why, I can't remember why I'm thinking that, but mix that in thoroughly, and then we add the biscuits. See, I'm doing this out this tin. Oh, that's a nice Christmas present that I didn't eat. Anyway, so mix all of this and make sure it's all got a covering of the chocolatey mixture. And as I say, I don't know how this is going to turn out. It should be crunchier biscuits and dark chocolate. But we're trying something new. We're trying it anyway. I mean, you just never know. We might discover something else that's really nice. It's an experiment. It's an experiment. Right, so this is going to be the base of our biscuit cake. See how it turns out. I'll put it into here. It seems awful big for that now. I think I should put it in a smaller one. I have a slightly smaller one. I'm thinking, is this smaller? It's not as deep. So maybe it's the same. Oh well. It's alright, we'll just put it in there. Sorry, I was just thinking in the moment there. I'll just put it in there. I think it could go in a smaller container, but we'll go with it. We'll go with it. And maybe just a thin layer. Yeah, it's going to be a thin layer. No, I'm not happy with that. Pause for a sec. Right, so thinking in the moment there, I wasn't happy with that, so I transferred it into a smaller cake tin, so it would all fit. And obviously my parchment paper wasn't cut to the right shape, so it's looking a bit wrinkly, but I think that'll be better. It just seemed to be lost in that big tin. So, not a mistake on my part, but that's the real world we live in. It's not all perfect. I don't live a filtered life. What you see is what you get. So, there's that. I'll just spread that over there. Now, I have no clue what this will be like, but I do fully intend to make the Queen's one. This is just a trial run to use up Christmas shortbread and Easter chocolate. I need to give it a new name if it comes out nice. Eastmas, Keister cake. Right, so refrigerate this, and I will make, once it's set, I'll make a dark chocolate ganache to go over it. Yeah, a dark chocolate ganache over the top. And with ganache, dark chocolate ganache, the amount of chocolate to the amount of cream that you put in depends on how soft or stiff you want the ganache to set. So yeah, I'll discuss the measurements, because I often, there's a really nice chocolate cake that I make, and I put a dark chocolate ganache over that, and it's set enough that you can cut into it and it's still tacky and nice. It's lovely. But I usually, when I leave the leftover ganache to set, I usually put sometimes a little bit of alcohol in it and let it set hard and roll it and make truffles out of it, to use the leftover ganache, because I always make too much. That's a nice one. I'll do that one time. That'll be a Fat Friday recipe, truffles. There's a few different truffles I make. I like all the fancy sweeties as well. So this is going in the fridge. We'll see it when it's set, and we'll see what the ganache ratio is. I think it's a half and half. I think it's half cream to half chocolate, like equal amounts of each for it to set. Stiffen up enough that it stays solid when you cut it. So that's what we'll do, and we'll see how the mini multi teasers are going. They might be set enough to coat chocolate. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll melt some melted chocolate and I'll coat them. There's not really much to see in that. I'll just melt some chocolate. Those ones will be milk. I'll use some more of that melted chocolate up. And once that's set, I'll cut that into little squares. I will melt my chocolate once more over my 1970s Pyrex bowl. I'll clean it first, and yeah, you can do it in the microwave in kind of increments of 30 seconds and stir. When I do that, when melting chocolate, I sometimes do a kind of tempering. It's called a seeding method, and what that is you would take, you would melt either on the bowl or in the microwave, sort of 3/4 of your chocolate, keep a quarter to maybe a third aside, broken up really small. Once that's then hot, you throw the rest in and mix, and it will melt with the heat of the rest that you've mixed, rather than putting everything in, because the more you keep heating and heating, especially in the microwave, you're at risk of burning it. I always tend to do it over the water bath because I just feel I never burn my chocolate when I do it that way. But each to their own. Right, I've taken this out the fridge. I'm not convinced it's completely ready. However, I'll refrigerate it again. I'm going out, so I don't have time to wait. What I'll do is I'll put it on a little cake plate, paper cake plate thing. Actually, give me an excuse to use this new thing that I got for lifting cake slices, just to get it off of there. Is it going to work? Yes, it is. Okay, and then I'll set that on there. Okay, right. Cake slice lifter, whatever. Cake lifter. Right, so it's on here. And now I'm going to put the ganache. I'm going to make the ganache and put that over. Right, so I've cut up dark chocolate very, very, very small into little small pieces. And then I'm heating up some double cream. You can heat up double cream or whipping cream till it's almost at the boil, but not quite boiling. So it's hot enough to melt the chocolate. And so just below boil, just getting to a simmer now. So that'll be the right time to take it off. And then you just pour the cream over the chocolate. And I'll just pour that right over the chocolate. Let it sit for a couple of seconds. Excuse me, I'm just going to run some water in that pot. Let it sit for a couple of seconds, just let the heat get into that chocolate. And then start to stir. And stir the chocolate. Start getting into a ganache. I was going to put it in a jug, it would make it easier to pour over. So I've sat the chocolate on the biscuit cake on a little cardboard cake platter, and I've sat that on like a cooling rack with parchment paper underneath, so if any of the chocolate pours over, it's not pouring all over the worktop, it's pouring onto the paper. So this is starting to blend, and it'll blend and it'll all blend, and then the lovely thing about a dark chocolate ganache is it has a beautiful sheen. The trick is to let it set. If it's not too hot a day, let it set at room temperature. Don't put it in the fridge will take the shine away. Done that before with a beautiful chocolate cake, it's such a lovely shine on it. And then I thought I'll put that in the fridge to keep it nice till later when it went all dull. Still tasted delicious, right? Right, so this is really thick. There's maybe loads of this left. Oh, I think I made too much. Make the truffles tomorrow. Right, so starting to turn it into ganache now. You can also whip ganache. You can whip it up by a blender and it turns into a really, really thick whippy. It goes light in colour and it turns into a thick whippy sort of cream that you could sandwich between chocolate layers or coat the top of the chocolate cake with. So there, that's turned into beautiful shiny ganache. Gorgeous. And then we'll I'm going to spoon it over the top because I think there's too much. I'm spoon it over the top of this and let it fall down the sides. A big blob right in the middle. I'll try and show it. And then I'll just like circle it outward like that and then let it pour down the sides. Because you don't really need a great big thick layer. I mean, I don't even know how this is going to turn out because it should have been with rich tea biscuits and dark chocolate. So this is a milk chocolate shortbread experiment extravaganza. Let's see, so we'll leave it like that and like it look drippy, or I think I'll put more on and let it fall down the sides a bit better. So that is almost it. I'm going to put that back in the refrigerator to let that completely set, and then we'll try cutting into it later and see how it turns out. However, we are going out this evening and I have to get ready. We're getting picked up in about 40 minutes, so if I have time before we go, I'll cut into it. So that's coated, not made too much of a mess. It's not like me. And there's like 2/3 of the ganache left, so that's, there we go. Doesn't that look nice? The Queen's one has all like curly chocolate shavings and beautiful things on the top. I seen a chef, the Queen's pastry chef, on some television show years ago, and talking about how she liked this for their afternoon tea, and never ever made it actually, so I'll make the real one. We'll see how that turns out, and we'll get the multi minis out. So I'm off to get ready. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, it's 5 o'clock here. I'm on the wine and we'll cut into that in a little while and see how it goes. So I took the Malties out of the fridge and started cutting them and thought I really should have filmed this, so here we go. Refrigerated to speed up the process. There we go. I'm just going to cut it into squares. I've done that a little bit wonky, but anyway, cut it into squares because I think that it'll be quite rich and you won't need a lot of them. You know, you won't need a great big piece. It's a little one with a cuppa. Right, I'll do all that later, but however, here is a little piece. I think I'll just take a tiny bit off the end. I'm going out for dinner. We're going to some fancy steak place, and I don't eat steak, so I don't know what I'll have. Here we go. So you can see, it looks like the little mini malts. Now they're obviously usually covered in chocolate, but I think just a little layer on the top is enough. It's a bit broken off there. A bit broken the way I cut that there. Nice. I know it's not Malteser pieces, but it has got that malty taste. Very nice. A little one of them with a cup of tea. Well, coffee for me. But yeah, that's lovely. Very sweet. Milk chocolate's not usually my go-to, but that's very nice. Yes. They'd be nice to put out, like a little plate of them out, having a little afternoon tea, something like that. Lovely. So there we go. I'll just put them here so you can see. Little multi pieces. I would just cut them into little squares like that. Little layer of chocolate on top. I actually melted 200 grams of chocolate and poured that over the top. I think 100 grams to 150 would have been enough. You just need a little thin layer. And that's created quite a thick layer. It doesn't really need it. So probably 100 and just a little thin layer on top would be fine. I mean, nobody will be complaining, but that's what I would do next time. So I will go and get ready and then we will cut the biscuit cake and see how that's turned out. Well, here I am, quickly getting ready to go out, and here is the Queen's cake. Ooh, well, it's not really the Queen's cake because we've not done it in the right way, but I have to cut a little bit. I really can't eat it because we're going out to dinner. And the reason I said earlier about going out to dinner to some fancy place is, although it's a steak place and I don't eat steak, maybe they'll do some fancy puddings. I might take some inspiration. Oh, look how nice that looks. Ooh, it's not quite set because it needs a little bit longer in the fridge. However, I did want to just, it looks a little messy, but I did really want to just show the finished result because it's not the same without the finished result. I'll put a little slice on here. Goodness. And because I love plain chocolate, that really suits me, the ganache on the outside. So there's the lovely, shiny, beautiful. I just know it's going to be delicious. I know it's not made the right way with the right biscuit. However, it doesn't look half bad. I don't want to ruin my appetite for the dinner, but I just have to. Oh, I have to. A little bit. It's maybe a bit crumbly. Let's see. Okay. Well, I think earlier when I said 1 tablespoon of water instead of 2, maybe it should have been 2, maybe it softens the biscuit a little. That is nice. Yeah, I think when you make it with tea biscuits, the water's going to heat up that fluffy creamy mixture in your chocolate and soak right into the biscuit and make that more, maybe a little bit less crumbly. I don't know, but it's lovely. And actually, the butteriness of the shortbread is really nice with that creamy whipped up milk chocolate. It's so nice, actually. This is like a, what do you call it, serendipity, a happy accident when something is like accidental but it turns out really, really nice. One more bite and then that's me because I'll spoil my appetite for dinner. Ooh, yes, lovely, lovely biscuity, whipped up, creamy, whatever that was with the milk chocolate, and then the beautiful, rich, indulgent ganache on top. I think probably longer it's been in the fridge, even by tomorrow, I think that'll be beautiful. The whipped up milk chocolate's almost mousse-like. It's like a very thin layer of mousse in between the crumbly shortbread. That's a winner. Winner, winner. I'm going for dinner. So, well, there we go. I hope you liked it and try it out. I think you could use any biscuits. Biscuit cake. When I'm on holiday, there's a restaurant round the corner and they've got a whole big chilled cabinet full of all different full of all different cakes and buns, and they always have biscuit cake with different types of biscuit, and I think they do something similar to that. The Marie tea biscuits would be nice too, because they're like thin and crispy. But I think just like McVitie's rich tea would be nice. You can't beat a McVitie's. I'm sorry, I don't like advertising companies, but McVitie's digestives and McVitie's rich tea, they are the best. So I think I'll try doing the Queen's Own recipe and do it properly and compare it to that. It won't be the same, but I think I'd probably like Her Majesty's recipe better next time, definitely. Well, we're off out for dinner, so if I get any inspiration from the menu tonight, maybe I'll pick something that I can try and replicate. Maybe, there's an idea. Dad's coming for dinner tomorrow, and I'm going to do another little recipe, Spanish inspired again, for dinner. And if I have time, I will definitely record that and post it. Happy Saturday. Scrumptious Saturday.